The shrill wail of a police siren pierced the quiet suburban afternoon as Karen Wilkins stormed out of her pristine white picket fence home, her face flushed with outrage. Her manicured nails clutched a cell phone, knuckles white with fury as she barked orders into the receiver. "Yes, officer. There's a disturbance at 1234 Maple Street. It's absolutely unacceptable. There's loud music, people yelling, the whole 9 yards. I demand you come right away and put a stop to this nonsense." Karen's piercing gaze surveyed the scene with a mix of disgust and triumph. Next door, her neighbor's teenage son Tyler sat on the front steps, head in his hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. A small group of friends had gathered around him, offering comfort and support in the wake of a tragedy Karen knew nothing about. "Honestly, the nerve of some people," she muttered under her breath, straightening her perfectly coiffed hair before striding across the lawn, stilettos clicking on the pavement. "This is a respectable neighborhood, and I won't have that kind of behavior ruining our property values." Reaching the group, Karen cleared her throat loudly, her lips pursed in a disapproving frown. "Excuse me, but I'm going to have to ask you all to keep it down. Some of us are trying to enjoy a peaceful afternoon, and your little gathering is causing quite a disturbance." The teenagers exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of how to respond to this sudden intrusion. Tyler lifted his head, red-rimmed eyes filled with a mix of grief and confusion. "Please, Mom, my friend just passed away. We're just trying to be there for each other," he said, voice trembling. Karen's expression shifted ever so slightly, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. But just as quickly, her mask of indignation snapped back into place. "Well, that's all very sad, I'm sure, but that doesn't give you the right to disrupt the entire neighborhood. Now, I've already called the police, and they'll be here any minute to handle this. I suggest you all pack up and go home before you find yourselves in even more trouble." Before anyone could protest, the unmistakable sound of a police siren grew louder, and a squad car pulled up to the curb. 2 uniformed officers stepped out, looking around with a mixture of confusion and annoyance. "All right, ma'am, what seems to be the problem here?" one of the officers asked, approaching Karen with a wary expression. Karen straightened her spine, puffing out her chest as she addressed the officers. "Thank goodness you're here, officers. These young people are causing a major disturbance, and I simply won't stand for it. There's loud music, yelling, and all sorts of unacceptable behavior going on. I demand you put a stop to it immediately and restore some peace and quiet to our lovely neighborhood." The officers glanced over at the small group of grieving teens, then back at Karen, their brows furrowed in bewilderment. One of them cleared his throat, taking a hesitant step forward. "Mom, I'm sorry, but it seems these kids are just trying to comfort their friend after a tragedy. There doesn't appear to be any loud music or disruptive behavior going on. Unless someone is in immediate danger or a law is being broken, I'm not sure there's much we can do here." Karen's eyes widened in disbelief, her manicured nails digging into the palms of her hands. "What do you mean? There's nothing you can do? I called you here to handle this situation, and I expect you to do your job. These people are ruining the ambience of our neighborhood, and that is simply unacceptable." The other officer raised a hand, trying to diffuse the escalating confrontation. "Ma'am, we understand your concerns, but from what we can see, these kids are just grieving the loss of their friend. Unless they're breaking any laws or disturbing the peace, we can't really intervene. Perhaps it would be best if we just let them have their moment and go about your day." Karen's face flushed a deep, angry red, her lips twisting into a sneer. "Oh, I see how it is. You're just going to let these hooligans run wild, disrupting the peace and quiet that we all cherish in this neighborhood. Well, I can assure you, this isn't the last you'll hear of this." Turning on her heel, Karen stormed back towards her house, muttering under her breath about the incompetence of the police and the audacity of the troublemakers next door. As she slammed the front door behind her, the officers exchanged a weary glance, shaking their heads as they retreated to their squad car. "Some people just can't mind their own business, can they?" one of the officers remarked, earning a rueful chuckle from his partner. The sun had long since set, casting deep shadows across the quiet suburban street, But Karen Wilkins was far from ready to let the matter rest. Pacing the length of her living room, she clutched a glass of Chardonnay, her brow furrowed in deep contemplation. Those officers had no idea what they were doing, she muttered to herself, taking a long, frustrated sip of her wine. It's their job to maintain order and protect the integrity of our neighborhood, and they just let those delinquents run wild. Pausing in front of the bay window, Karen peered out into the darkness, her gaze fixed on the small group of teens still gathered on the neighbor's front steps. A scowl darkened her features as she watched them, their voices hushed and somber. Honestly, the nerve of them, she huffed, turning away and resuming her pacing. As if their little grief party gives them the right to disrupt the peace and quiet. I won't stand for it. Not in my neighborhood. Draining the last of her wine, Karen set the glass down with a decisive thud and strode over to the phone, her fingers swift and sure as she dialed a familiar number. After a few rings, a gruff voice answered, and Karen launched into an impassioned tirade, her words tumbling out in a rapid-fire torrent. Listen, Hank, I need your help. There's a situation next door, and the police are refusing to do anything about it. These kids are causing a real disturbance, and it's just unacceptable. I want you to go over there and put a stop to it, by any means necessary. I don't care what you have to do. Just make sure they understand they can't run roughshod over our neighborhood. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, followed by a low chuckle. You got it, Karen. I'll take care of it. Just leave it to me. Satisfied, Karen nodded, a triumphant gleam in her eye. Excellent. I knew I could count on you. Just make sure you take care of this quickly and quietly. I can't have the neighborhood up in arms over this. Hanging up the phone, Karen took a deep, steadying breath, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. This ought to teach those troublemakers a lesson, she murmured, turning her gaze once more to the darkened street outside. It didn't take long for Hank, Karen's self-appointed enforcer, to make his presence known. Within the hour, the sound of a large truck rumbling down the street drew the attention of the grieving teens, who watched with bewilderment as it pulled up in front of the house next door. Tyler looked up, his red-rimmed eyes widening as he saw the hulking figure of Hank emerge from the vehicle, a baseball bat in hand. Guys, I think we might have a problem, he whispered, ushering his friends to their feet. Hank strode across the lawn, his heavy boots leaving deep imprints in the grass. Stopping a few feet from the group, he leveled a menacing glare at the teenagers, the bat resting casually on his shoulder. All right, listen up, you little punks, he growled, his voice low and gruff. I've been told you're causing a real ruckus around here, and that's just not gonna fly. So I'm gonna give you one chance to pack up your stuff and get the hell out of this neighborhood before things start getting ugly. The teens exchanged alarmed glances, Tyler's face paling as he stepped forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. Look, man, we're just trying to be there for our friend. We're not looking for any trouble, I swear. Hank's lip curled in a sneer, his grip tightening on the bat. That's not my problem, kid. All I know is Karen wants you gone, and that's good enough for me. So we better start moving, or you're gonna find out real quick what happens when you mess with the wrong people. One of the other teens, a tall, lanky boy named Jake, stepped forward, brow furrowed in defiance. Dude, you can't just come in here and threaten us like this. We haven't done anything wrong, and we're not going anywhere. Hank's eyes narrowed, and in one swift motion, he swung the bat, slamming it into the ground just inches from Jake's feet. The teens jumped back, terror etched on their faces. Last chance, punk, Hank growled, his voice dripping with menace. You and your little friends better get the hell out of here, or you're gonna be picking your teeth up off the ground. Tyler, trembling, grabbed Jake's arm, ushering the group towards the house. Guys, let's just go, please. We don't want any trouble. As the teens hurried inside, Hank watched with a satisfied smirk, his grip still tight on the bat. That's what I thought, he muttered, turning to head back to his truck. Little did he know, however, that a pair of watchful eyes had been observing the entire confrontation, the owner's expression a mix of shock and outrage. Chloe Wilkins, the daughter of the notorious HOA Karen, had been watching the entire exchange from her bedroom window, her hands clutching the curtains in a white-knuckled grip. As Hank's truck rumbled away, she quickly pulled out her phone, fingers flying across the screen. "Dad, you need to get home right away," she said, her voice hushed but urgent. "Something terrible is happening, and I think Mom is behind it. You have to come now, before someone gets hurt." Within minutes, the roar of an engine signaled the arrival of Chloe's father, a prominent local attorney. Rushing through the front door, he found his daughter waiting, her face pale and her eyes brimming with tears. "Chloe, what's going on? What happened?" he asked, grabbing her by the shoulders. "It's Mom, Dad," Chloe replied, her voice trembling. "She called one of her enforcers to come and threaten the kids next door. They're all just grieving the loss of their friend, and she's trying to run them out of the neighborhood. You have to do something." The color drained from the father's face, and a look of grim determination settled on his features. "Stay here, Chloe. I'm going to handle this." Striding across the lawn, the attorney approached the front door of the neighbor's house, his fist raised to knock. Before he could do so, however, the door swung open, revealing a distraught Tyler. "Mr. Wilkins?" the boy stammered, his eyes wide with fear. "Is something wrong? We were just—" "Tyler, I need to speak with your parents immediately," the attorney interrupted, his voice urgent but calm. "This situation has gone too far, and I need to rectify it before it gets any worse." Taken aback, Tyler hesitated for a moment before nodding and ushering the man inside. As the door closed behind them, Karen Wilkins watched from her window, her brow furrowed in confusion and concern. "What on earth is he doing?" he muttered, her fingers drumming anxiously on the windowsill. "This isn't how it was supposed to go at all." Little did she know, the tables were about to turn, and her actions were about to have far-reaching consequences that she could never have anticipated. As the door closed behind the attorney, Tyler led him to the living room, where the other grieving teens sat in somber silence. Their heads turned in unison as the two men entered, a mixture of relief and wariness on their faces. "Mr. Wilkins, what's going on?" Tyler asked, his voice trembling. "Is everything all right?" The attorney took a deep breath, his gaze sweeping across the room. "I'm afraid there's been a very serious situation unfolding next door, and I need to address it with all of you." He paused, his expression grave. "My wife, Karen, has been orchestrating some actions against you and your friends, and I can assure you, it's not something I condone or support in any way." The teens exchanged bewildered glances, their eyes widening with realization. "Wait, so you're saying your wife is the one who called that guy to come and threaten us?" one of the girls, Sarah, asked, her voice laced with disbelief. The attorney nodded solemnly. "Yes, that's exactly what's happened. And I want to apologize on her behalf and assure you that I will be putting a stop to this immediately." He turned to Tyler, his expression softening. "I'm so sorry for your loss, Tyler. I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you and your friends. The last thing you need is to be harassed in your own neighborhood during such a trying time." Tyler blinked back tears, his shoulders slumping in relief. "Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. We've just been trying to be there for each other, and your wife's friend showed up and threatened us. We didn't know what to do." The attorney nodded, his jaw tightening with resolve. "Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I'm going to have a very serious conversation with my wife, and I can assure you this will never happen again." He paused, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of his lips. "In fact, I have a feeling that after this, she's going to be a lot more understanding and sympathetic to your situation." The teens exchanged hopeful glances, some of the tension finally starting to ease from their shoulders. As the attorney turned to leave, Tyler stepped forward, a tentative smile on his face. "Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. We really appreciate you stepping in and putting a stop to this." The attorney nodded, his expression softening. "Of course, Tyler. That's what good neighbors are for." With that, he turned and strode out the door, his mind already whirring with the conversation he knew he was about to have with his wife. Karen Wilkins paced the length of her living room, her brow furrowed in a mixture of confusion and concern. The confrontation with the teens next door had not unfolded as she had planned, and now her husband had gone over there, his expression grave and determined. This is not how it was supposed to go, she muttered under her breath, chewing nervously on her lower lip. Hank was supposed to handle it, not bring that meddling attorney into the mix. Just as the thought crossed her mind, the front door burst open, and her husband stormed in, his face flushed with anger. "Karen, what the hell were you thinking?" he demanded, his voice sharp and accusatory. Karen took a step back, her eyes widening in alarm. "What are you talking about, dear?" "I was simply trying to maintain the peace and quiet in our neighborhood. Those kids were causing a dreadful ruckus, and I had to do something about it." Her husband let out a humorless laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. "Maintain the peace by sending one of your enforcers to threaten a group of grieving teenagers. Do you have any idea of how that looks, Karen?" Karen's eyes narrowed, her chin jutting out stubbornly. "I don't care how it looks, Roger. Those kids were disrupting the entire neighborhood, and something had to be done. I was simply trying to protect our property values and our way of life." Roger's face darkened, and he took a step closer to his wife, his voice low and intense. "Property values? Is that really all you care about, Karen? Those kids are dealing with the loss of a friend, and you had the audacity to call in a thug to threaten them." Karen opened her mouth to respond, but Roger cut her off, his hand raised in a silencing gesture. "No, Karen, you listen to me. What you did was wrong, plain and simple. And as the Attorney General of this state, I won't stand for it. I've already spoken to the kids next door, and I've assured them that this will never happen again." Karen's eyes widened, and she took a step back, her face pale. "The Attorney General? But how?" Roger shook his head, his expression grim. "That's right, Karen. I'm the Attorney General, and I take my responsibilities very seriously. And that includes protecting the rights and well-being of all citizens, even those who live in our own neighborhood." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "From now on, I want you to stay away from those kids and mind your own business. If I hear of you interfering in their lives again, there will be serious consequences. Do I make myself clear?" Karen stared at her husband, her mouth agape, the color draining from her face. For once, the infamous HOA care was at a loss for words. In the days that followed, the Wilkins household was a tense and uneasy place. Karen, once the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, found herself on the defensive, her husband's stern warning echoing in her mind. Chloe, the couple's daughter, watched the fallout with a mixture of relief and trepidation. She had always been uneasy with her mother's obsession with maintaining the perfect neighborhood, and she was grateful that her father had stepped in to put a stop to her antics. As for the grieving teens next door, they found themselves the unexpected beneficiaries of the Wilkins family drama. Not only had their harassment ceased, but the Attorney General himself had assured them that they were welcome to grieve in peace without fear of further interference. Tyler, in particular, was touched by the attorney's kindness and understanding. He had been prepared for the worst, but instead, he found an unexpected ally in the most unlikely of places. "I can't believe your mom is the Attorney General," he said to Chloe one day, a wry smile on his lips. "I guess she really didn't know who she was messing with, huh?" Chloe laughed, shaking her head. "Yeah, how kidding. I still can't believe it all went out like that. But I'm just glad it's over, and that you and your friends can have the space you need to heal." Tyler nodded, his expression sobering. "Me too. It's been a really tough time, but knowing that we have the support of the Attorney General, of all people, makes it a little easier to bear." As for Karen Wilkins, she found herself uncharacteristically subdued, her obsession with maintaining the perfect neighborhood giving way to a newfound sense of perspective. She still cared deeply about her community, but she had learned a valuable lesson, that sometimes the pursuit of perfection can come at a steep price. And so, the Wilkins family moved forward, their dynamics forever altered by the events that had unfolded on that fateful day. And though the scars of the ordeal would linger, they would also serve as a reminder that even the most formidable HOA Karen is no match for the power of compassion and understanding.